How do you handle working capital in an M&A transaction? Well, you have to leave a little gas in the tank. Hey everybody, this is Michael McGregor. I'm an M&A investment banker with Focus Investment Banking, and I'm part of the team that helps automotive folks with mergers and acquisitions. But I'm also a monthly columnist for Modern Tire Dealer. In an upcoming edition, I discuss how working capital is handled in an M&A transaction. You know, what I love about this Modern Tire Dealer column is that I get to periodically write about things that aren't really top of mind in a transaction. You know, everybody is concerned about the value of their business, but there's so many things that could go on in a transaction, like working capital, that there's no way I could possibly tell all my clients up front what these things are. So I like that in these columns I get to write about some things and sometimes get into the weeds of it, okay? So that's what this month's video and column is about. Well, what's the definition of working capital? Very simply, it's current assets minus your current liabilities. Current assets are things like cash, accounts receivable, and inventory. Current liabilities obviously are accounts payable, accrued wages, and things like that. Now, in most tire and service M&A deals, they're done on a cash-free, debt-free basis. That means the seller of the business, or the owner of the tire business, gets to keep the cash that they have in the bank, but at the same time, they're responsible for paying off the long-term debt in the business as well. So in my column, I give what is usually the formula for working capital, and it's accounts receivable plus inventory minus accounts payable, accrued expenses, and that equals your net working capital. So why is working capital included as part of a tire and service acquisition? Well, if you think of your business like it was a used car, you need oil in that engine to keep it running, and you need gas in the tank to get it to its next fill up, right? So you would not sell a used car without oil and gas in that. Same with working capital. It's the liquidity, if you will, to get whoever's buying that business to the next stop, okay? What I typically advise my clients is just keep the level of inventory as you normally would, keep running the business as you normally would, and this just helps for a smoother transaction. In multi-store transactions, you usually first see mention of working capital in a letter of intent, and in there it's usually referred to as there's going to be a normalized level of working capital that is going to be acquired. Well, how do you arrive at what a normalized level of working capital is? Well, you do that by analyzing monthly, maybe the last 12 months or last 24 months, what the working capital is. And sometimes you look at it as a relation or percentage to sales, but usually you take a look and see what the fluctuations are. We sometimes take a look and get a 12-month average of working capital, and together the buyer and seller agree that that's going to be, at closing, there's going to be a target level of working capital. A few days prior to a closing, the seller estimates what he believes the working capital will be. If that working capital, if the estimated level of working capital is more than the targeted level that it's been agreed upon up front, then the purchase price that the seller gets will be raised slightly by that other bit of difference between the estimated and the target working capital. If the estimated working capital is less than the targeted working capital, then the purchase price is lowered by that exact same amount. Now, what typically happens is you close a transaction, then about 90 days later, there's something called a true-up. The buyer then calculates the exact level of working capital because they finalize the inventory, all the bills have come in. They send what they believe is the actual closing working capital to the seller. The seller then agrees to that, and that is the finalized level of working capital. And again, so if that finalized level is more than what the estimated working capital was at closing, then the buyer is going to send that seller a check. If the opposite happens, where there's a deficiency in the working capital in that last calculation, typically there's a little bit of an escrow or a holdback that the buyer will have, and they usually dock that by amount if there is a deficiency there. So anyway, so that is working capital in an M&A transaction. There's more to it in my column. There's actually a real-world example in there and some calculations and some numbers and formulas. So go take a look. I hope that you find it helpful. If you have any questions, always feel free to call me at 704-621-7200. You can email me at michael.mcgregor@focusbankers.com. So thanks for watching, and thanks as always for being a loyal Modern Tire Dealer reader.